Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of the People Show. I'm Mark Wallace, your host and facilitator here on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. We'd like to ask you to go to our YouTube page, and that is the People Show with Mark J. Wallace. You can subscribe there absolutely free. There is no cost to subscribe. We just want you to be a part of the family. Well, today's special edition is we'll be talking with our endorsed candidates from 10 by 10 to win. And she is running for the 2nd Congressional District of the House of Representatives. Donna Miller is going to be with me in just a few minutes, and we're going to be talking with her about what her platform is. She'll be taking questions from me, and then we're going to clarify what her positions are, because there's been a whole lot of rumors. I'm sure that many of you all have been inundated with television ads, whether it be on your television, Roku, or wherever it is that you stream, that there are so many ads going out weaponizing AIPACs, which is the American Israeli, I can't even think of the full term of it, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into it. But they've been using the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, and they've been using that as a weapon against political foes. But most people don't even understand what it is and the nuances of it. And of course, we've seen a lot of that in the last few days against Donna Miller's campaign, and then we're going to give her the opportunity to talk about that. And of course, the United States does have a coalition with Israel, but there are different states about that. You're talking about the state of Israel, which has only been in place since 1948, and then you're talking about the nation of Israel. And so there are nuances there, and it's very important for people to understand what that is. However, we're going to get into this conversation because I had the opportunity to speak with Donna Miller when we first interviewed her at our 10 by 10 to win endorsement hearing, and I was, very impressed with her presentation and some information that she apprised me of. I was not aware of that information, but I think it's very critical to the health of Black women in particular. We're going to get into talking about that. And then we want to talk about what her actual priorities are. So let's get into the conversation. I'm going to welcome to the program the candidate for the 2nd Congressional District, Ms. Donna Miller, who also serves as our Cook County Commissioner. Donna Miller, welcome to the program, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. And thank you for 10 by 10 for being so supportive, and the People's Show for engaging the community and all the things that we need to be talking about. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know that you have a busy schedule. We're only 2 days away from Election Day. And so I know that you have a lot to do. So let's get into this. And I really appreciate that, because I wanted to really get into this in depth. Because one, again, full disclosure, we support you. I support you. And our committee overwhelmingly voted to support you and your candidacy. But there have been some questions that have been raised about your position about what's going on with the United States and Israel and Iran right now. And then, of course, Israel and the Palestinian. So for clarification, could you state what is your position as it relates to the state of Israel?
Well, first, let me just go back one step. When we talk about AIPAC does not make endorsements. So I have not been endorsed by AIPAC itself. So AIPAC is a PAC, and they do, I think at one time they may have made endorsements. The big issue that's happening right now is that people are talking about those who contribute to AIPAC, and I have had people who contribute to AIPAC who also have contributed to my campaign. And I have a diverse coalition of support in this race. That includes people who are part of the Jewish Democratic community, and some of them are supporters of AIPAC and some of them are not. So that's where I think all of this has to be clarified. And this coalition of support comes from decades of work that I have done as a county commissioner, as my former role as board chair of Planned Parenthood. In the private sector, I worked in the biotech pharmaceutical industry, and that community represents underserved communities that include people who are part of the Jewish community as well as African Americans. So I think it's hard to lump support just from one group on one issue alone. So my support or my issue as it relates to Israel came before we got into this terrible war that our president has put us in with Iran now, and that has not been sanctioned by Congress at all. I do believe in the U.S.-Israeli relationship. I believe that Israel plays a key role in U.S. regional security, and in a way, we're seeing that play out right now. I believe that we should have a two-state solution, and that is the best path to lasting peace in the Middle East, which is a volatile area. And I've been very critical of the Netanyahu administration and how they've handled the war and the prior war. Now here we are again in this war, and the humanitarian relief that they did not provide to the Palestinian people. And I don't want to see anybody suffer from war or the devastation of war. Now we're seeing that play out in real time. And when we see civilians who suffer because of war, unfortunately, our country doesn't know what that's like. I've seen some of the footage right now where people are just like, oh, here comes incoming. We're not used to that. And it's unfortunate to see people suffer in that way. So I want to make sure that we are looking at the holistic view of all the things that I do support. This issue related to AIPAC has taken up a lot of energy. And it's also been looked at as very anti-Semitic by some of my Jewish counterparts and friends who've supported me. They actually wrote a letter of support for me in this area, just to say that they're not looking at themselves in this way either. So we have to look at people for the whole body of work that they represent.
And for people should know that AIPAC itself historically do not donate directly to candidates. They didn't in the past. And again, for clarification, that it is made up of a cross section of people who have, nuance of varying different degrees, but they largely are a PAC that supports the United States-Israeli relations for security. But I think that, you have other groups that have funded advertising campaigns against your campaign or for another person's campaign, because they know that by and large, the majority of people are not going to really get down and dig into the details of what this really is. So I thought it was very important to start off by clarifying what your position is with Israel. And it is a very complicated situation that exists, because while there are many people on both sides of the aisle that are very critical of what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing in terms of this war, as well as what has been going on with the Palestinians, that makes it very complicated. So it's not, a zero-sum, game here with this situation, and we have to understand it in its totality. All right, but thank you for that. But so let's get into what your primary platform is, and if you are successful, and we are really excited, and I have been getting very good feedback from people who really support your campaign. And like I said, I didn't know much about you before we had our first conversation, but of course, the more I started to do my homework, and the more I started to do my research, and then listening to you, was thoroughly impressed, and I was very excited that the committee as a whole decided that you're going to be the person that we support. So let's get into your platform, and let's get into some of the details of that. So what's going to be your primary focus of dealing with should you become the next congressperson for the 2nd Congressional District?
Well, thank you for that, Mark. I appreciate that. My primary focus is going to be healthcare related. I have been working on healthcare disparities throughout my whole professional career, my government career. I have worked in the past on healthcare from the government side, also from corporate side and nonprofit. So I really understand how they're intertwined. I know how to take all the different pieces of those entities and weave them together to make some sort of way that we can improve outcomes for people's healthcare. And as we look at what this administration is doing right now, cutting Medicaid, $880 billion are being cut from Medicaid, slashing veterans benefits. I just saw that veterans cannot get even in appointments on a timely basis in our VA hospital system. Cutting women's research from NIH, from CDC, completely annihilated. So these are all issues that I've been working on for decades. I will go to Congress to not only restore those benefits and ways that we are helping our people in our country have health care, but I will also expand those. I think it's important to say that we need to be a country focused more on preventative health care and how we can get at the root cause of why people have certain disease states and how we can teach them by educating them, by having public service announcements, by having town hall meetings, and educate people on how they can take control of their own health. We are a sick society. I don't mean sick in a bad way, a sick society. We treat people when they're sick as opposed to telling people how to stay well. And we need to have that more as an approach. I have 3 bills ready to go right now in Congress that I have been championing from the level of being a commissioner. I have taken those to our organization called NACO, which is National Association of County Officials. At NACO, we provide guidance on a national level of bills that we want to see, legislation that we want to see Congress to pass. So I have 3 of those ready to go right now. One is centered on cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death for everyone, men, women, white, Black, every community. So we need to improve outcomes for cardiovascular disease. And one of the smallest, easiest ways to do that is making sure that everyone knows CPR. It sounds so simple, but the loss of life that happens just because most cardiac events happen at home with someone that they love, or in not at work, or not in a hospital, but it happens when regular people are around and regular people don't know what to do. Learning CPR can save lives. This is something that the government can help us with. So that's why I have this legislation ready to go to improve access for CPR training, to make sure that there's AED machines everywhere. Those have to be paid for some kind of way, and the government can step in and make that happen. That's number 1. Number 2 is maternal health. I know last time we spoke a little bit about maternal health. We have a maternal health crisis. What does that mean? It means that women, when they're having a child at any stage of their pregnancy, they are losing their life, pre and postpartum. And all of this is 90% preventable. And it means if something is 90% preventable, that means we can do something about it. That's something I've done on the level of being a commissioner here in Cook County. I started the first ever and got funding for the first ever doula program here at the hospital system. Doulas are mid-level providers that can come in and help advocate when the family or the woman cannot speak for themselves or doesn't know what to advocate for. This is a way to improve outcomes. So we're going to see the results of that coming soon, because my doula program at the hospital, at Cook County Hospital, has now been in effect for a year as of this March. So we'll see how is that going to work. And that's something, again, that I've advocated for on the national level. There's national legislation that's already been in place. But guess what happened? When this administration came into place, they stopped having hearings. They stopped moving forward. Like I mentioned, they cut research. So we have to put that back because our country needs help. Our citizens need help. Women need help in this. And so having doulas as part of the national framework will help improve the outcomes for maternal health. Now, the second congressional district is like many other districts. We are in a healthcare desert, which means we don't have enough providers. So that's another thing down the road that I would love to see, that we come into communities and help educate young people on careers in healthcare, whether it be nursing, radiology techs, doctors, dentists. We need people in our own communities to take care of our community. That's down the road. So I don't have anything in place for that, but that's another thing that I'd be advocating for. And the third thing was, I mentioned research. So uterine fibroids, this is another thing that affects women. But if we don't have women having children, we're not going to have a community. Okay. We're not going to have people. So we have to have, so uterine fibroids disproportionately affect African-American women. Again, that research has been cut. We need to get that back. That's another piece of legislation that I have ready to go. And the two other pieces of legislation that I have ready to go, when I say I have them ready to go, it's because they've already been approved by NACO. We already have the force of NACO saying that this is something that all counties in the entire country want to see happen. We've voted on it, and now we can take that to Congress. We're urging Congress to do something about this. The other two are social media safety. And I started the first ever social media safety day here in partnership with the city of Chicago and Cook County. Why? Because unfortunately, social media has been labeled a public health crisis for our young people. There were no guardrails put around social media when social media just came into our lives. Now it's here, and now we have to pull back the reins and try to get some kind of rules and parameters around that, because many children are getting bullied online and it's out of control. And that's why I put this legislation forward, because a family came to me, unfortunately, their child took their own life from being bullied online with social media. So this is something, again, the federal government can do something about. And the fifth piece is around environmental justice and climate control. Unfortunately, again, this disproportionately affects communities of color. And the Biden-Harris administration had the most comprehensive infrastructure package put together in decades. And unfortunately, this administration came in and cut it immediately. I want to look at environmental justice and climate control, because this affects not only communities of color, but this is going to affect our whole country, our whole world, if we don't get guardrails around what's happening there. So those are 5 pieces of legislation. The minute I get to Congress, I will be working to make sure that we are having hearings, getting testimony, providing ways that we can get bills passed on this, put money into the budget to make all of those things happen. That's just a starting point. I have other things that I want to look at related to veterans and related to like I mentioned, about educating a viable workforce to come into our community from a healthcare standpoint. And I know we've also talked about the South Suburban Airport. That's another thing that I want to make sure that we in the Southland and the South suburbs and the city of Chicago work together on getting this South Suburban Airport that's been mandated by the FAA. So this is not something we just want to hope and see we happen. Just last week, there was a report that O'Hare is at capacity. So that means that we are not going to have the air traffic that we've had in the past, because there's no more air traffic to have. We're going to lose business. So we need to also train the next generation of pilots. We need to train the next generation of mechanics who can work on these planes. So we have a lot that we can do, but we can't do that with a stagnant Congress. We can't do that with no focus to get there. We can't do that when we have a government who's focused on things that don't help people in communities.
Well, that is a very strong platform, and I want to comment on a couple of those. Starting with the healthcare, and as you say, that we need to have women that are able to have children and carry pregnancy health-wise, but we also need to protect them so that they can be here to mother those children as well, making sure that those safeguards are in place. One of the other things that I have come in contact with over the last couple of years, because I have a friend who is 79 years old. And unfortunately, she is dying of colorectal cancer. And she is bedridden. And I've come in contact with some things about care with Medicare, where depending upon the status that they are in, whether they're at home or if they go into hospice, part of their nutrition is cut off by Medicare, which should not be. Nobody should be starved to death because doctors have said that their conditions are terminal. So that's something in Medicare that needs to be addressed. The other thing in Medicare that needs to be addressed is to making sure that people have total coverage that is needed. She has to pay anywhere from $800 to $2,400 in transportation from her assisted living place to medical appointments or to the hospital, even when she is not able to be transported by regular transportation. At the stage that she is in now, she has to be transported by ambulance. There is no other way to do it. Now, Medicare says that they can pay for that depending upon certain conditions. That's something that I think that you should look into, because this is a life-threatening situation. So if she was to be transported in a regular vehicle, it would be life-threatening to her. But now she's having to pay $800 to $2,400, and we're having to argue with Medicare about providing a necessary care for someone who is sick and that as terminally ill. So that's one area or a couple of nuances in Medicare that really needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And I can sympathize with you on that, because that's exactly what happened to my stepfather. He had to be transported by ambulance, and the last time he didn't make it. So, and then he passed away. So these are the things that, people don't realize when we're talking about all of these comprehensive cuts, and every little nuance that's in there, it affects people's everyday life in a way they can't imagine. And that's another thing that this administration cut. The Biden administration had the I think it was called the Inflation Reduction Act. It was focused on cancer yes. research and the cancer initiative. They cut that. So now that was going in a positive direction, and this could help change people's lives, improve the outcomes for their life. So there's many different nuances. I welcome all of these kind of conversations when I go to Congress, because how we get things done is by hearing from regular people, everyday people who want to advocate to make our government better, but also why we should do that. We can't have people's lives be in jeopardy when we're just cutting the funding indiscriminately.
Well, yeah, and the other thing you talked about is the South Suburban Airport. The South Suburban Airport has been something that has been worked on since 1994. We have 90% of the land that is acquired. 90% of the project is ready to go. For the exception of some people like the governor and some people that are working against it. Here we are faced with a situation where O'Hare are going to have to reduce flights because they don't have the capacity. I was just informed that Southwest Airlines, who were flying out of O'Hare, is no longer going to be flying out of O'Hare as of June of this year. So this is simply saying, as a punch in the face, that we need to have a third airport. Every other major region has a third hub. And here it is in Chicago. We are getting ready to give $500 million to a data center for 150 jobs, when we could give $500 million to build an airport that will create 15,000 jobs, plus it will impact an economy all the way around it. So that is something that, and you're going to have the wind at your back, because The Democrats are going to take Congress back this year. They're going to take the House back this year, and possibly the Senate. So these are initiatives that we are certainly going to be working with you on and pushing to make sure that these get done. Now, the other thing that I think is important is that one of the things that happen when someone gets elected to office, because you of course you are, inundated with all kinds of things, but what happens is the connection between the person who was now elected in the office and the constituents becomes constricted. So what do you have in place, or what will you put into place to make sure that conduit of communicating and certainly staying in touch with the constituents, that the constituent know what you're doing and how the constituents can be involved to support the work that you're doing on these initiatives like the South Suburban Airport and like the health initiatives? What will you do differently than some of the other politicians? Because this is a central thing that many of us complain about, that once a person gets elected, we never hear from them.
Well, that will never. So as a commissioner, I have been very involved in my community. I cover a broad area. I've had town halls across the area, and I actually enjoy those. And I enjoy partnering with organizations like 10 by 10 to Win, and organizations that have a platform and want to get down and dirty and get in here and make things happen. So I already started thinking of the plan to have, this is a broad district. It starts on 43rd Street. It goes to Danville, Illinois. You can't just have one office. So I plan on having 3 different district offices to represent each different community. And what I'd love to do, and I've done this already as a commissioner, is have town hall meetings on a regular basis. And I want to have focused town hall meetings on issues. South Suburban Airport would be one, healthcare would be another, veterans would be another, seniors would be another. So those are just some ways that we would engage different communities on different issues that they care about. But when we invite the public, I want to see the public there. I do everything I can right now to make sure I get the word out. I have a newsletter I send out. I communicate with people via text message. I do robocalls. But when we do all that kind of work, and if people don't show up, I don't know what else to do. I mean, even we're talking about that right now, even as we're voting, we're doing pretty good with early voting in the South suburbs, but not as good in the city of Chicago. How do we get people to come out and vote? But I know that there's organizations just like yours that have a pulse on the community. And if they have someone they can pull in and grab hold on, I'm the person that will hold your hand with you. I want to be the person that will make that happen. I'm willing to go everywhere. I did that as a salesperson when I sold many different disease states. I went into the community. Sometimes they weren't the best looking office, let's say, but that's where people were. And I always want to go where the people are. So I would welcome any advice. I would welcome any constituency bases that people want to do, any places that people think this is a better place than that place. And all we can do is try. And I also want to engage people, like they say, Congress is for the people. People can come to Congress too. When it comes time to testify, they're invited to come and share their testimony. We don't see that right now. And I think that's because of this administration. But in the past, that's how it's supposed to work. And we're going to make the Congress work for the people again.
Who are some of the other endorsements that you have in terms of support?
I've been endorsed by Elect Democratic Women, which is a group of congresswomen, current and former congresswomen from across the country. Elect Democratic Women. I've been endorsed just recently by Pastor Singleton, who's at Victory Apostolic Church in Madison. I've been endorsed by local mayors and trustees. I've been endorsed by most of my fellow commissioners on the county board. I've been endorsed by other elected officials who may not be in this area, like for other congressmen, Congresswoman Terry Sewell, Congressman Tory Carter, Congressman Brad Schneider, a list of others. And I just think that shows a broad base of support on every level of government, because every level of government is going to have to work together to make something happen in these different communities. But also every level of government has a stake in what happens on the federal level. And I think that we have to teach our communities, our local mayors, how do you get funding from the federal government? How does, I see it on the commissioner level. We, as Cook County, because we're a large county, we do get funding, but maybe we need to get more funding. We have CBDG grants out there. How do we make sure that we get more of that in communities? How do we make sure that the county roads and the state roads and and work together to make sure that all the roads work? And so that people could drive and have no flooding and have safe transportation. So working together with all of these different constituency bases, working together with multiple levels of government on the federal level, that's how we tie it all together and make sure it works for people.
All right, yeah, and absolutely getting people engaged in this process. We know that is a difficult thing to do, and we have to come up with ways to get to expand participation, and then certainly generating the revenues to take care of those things that you just talked about is expanding the tax base. And part of expanding the tax base is getting more people into the workforce. And more people into the workforce are people who contribute to the tax base rather than going to the same group of people trying to squeeze more out of people that are already been squeezed. We need to expand the tax base so that we can grow the economy. And there is no better way to do that than to build and get that third airport built so that we can create thousands of jobs. Those jobs created at the airport will also infuse other businesses, small businesses, to start all up and down the region. And that is how we expand the tax base to do that. And we have to get a PR campaign out to the public so that the public can push the governor, can push our state legislatures, to push our mayors to get on board with this and to put this on a fast track that has been on I don't know how you can compare it, but it's, we're 30 some odd years and we still haven't gotten this done that has been mandated to get done.
And, you talk about expanding the tax base, with having more jobs. We have to have something for our young people to aspire to so they won't leave Illinois. I think we have data that says that we have a brain drain, right? Our young people get trained here and then they leave. I'm experiencing that myself. I have a young man, my son, and he's a civil engineer. I want him to build the roads here, but he doesn't live here right now. So now he lives in DC area. So my other son, you mentioned about the airport. The airport is also going to help with drone technology. I laugh about the fact that when my son was like in 5th grade, he told me he was going to have a drone business. Well, he really can have a drone business. And now he's in college. So I think that we need to teach our young people that there are new business ventures that are going to be part of our whole economy that don't exist right now or exist on a small level, that we need them to build. We need them to take over. And the airport, you were exactly right. The airport will definitely provide that type of economic development, that type of income. And then we can build communities where young people would want to stay and live. Even if they don't come back to their own community, they might want to build other communities outside of this area, because we're going to connect Danville, Illinois, Kankakee, Illinois, south suburbs, all the way to the city of Chicago. The airport has the ability to connect all of those areas.
Well, absolutely, because and really, I really like to not say it as a job, but it is a career. We're talking about careers where people can start and retire from, and building a very, very comfortable, stable life for thousands of people that is just going to elevate the South region and the Southland and the southern part of Chicago the same way that O'Hare did. Imagine if we did not have O'Hare. I mean, they opposed building O'Hare. If we didn't have O'Hare, Chicago would not be what Chicago is today. If we get that third airport, we could have the same type of robustness on both sides of the spectrum of Chicago, like every other major metropolitan city has. And so
they opposed Midway. They opposed Midway Airport too at those times. I've seen some of those articles. It's the same thing we're hearing now, but about the South Suburban Airport, the same sort of conversation. But look like you just said, if we didn't have that, Chicago would not be the metropolitan city that it is. We need to be part of what's happening on global level. And we need to connect all of those airports so that we can compete in the global marketplace. And that also provides opportunity for the next generation to go and build those types of, and it's not a job, you're right, these careers that can be taken on an international level.
All right, listen, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to give you the last word. What would you like to say to the audience? We're going to be knocking on your door. We're going to be supporting you, but we're also going to be nudging you to move these initiatives forward. So all that we can, because as I like to say, is anybody in political office, we want them to be successful. And you're only as successful, your success depends on how you deliver and lift the lives of other people in the region. So we're going to help you do that, and we're going to nudge you to do that. So we're going to get out in the streets over these next couple of days and try to drum up as many votes as we can to get people to get you to become the next representative of the House of Representatives of the 2nd Congressional District. So we'll give you the final word.
Well, thank you for that. And I welcome everyone's expertise. I think that when we work together, we're stronger. I always say we do better when we work together. And taking initiatives such as the South Suburban Airport, advocating for healthcare, advocating for maternal healthcare, making sure that we do not have the continuation of healthcare deserts, food deserts in our communities. And we can own these conversations. And when we work together to force, I say force as a strong word, but force every level of government to work together, we can build that. It's happened enough on a small level, but we need to continue it to expand, and we need to get a really defined economic development plan together that we can all support and work towards. So I welcome your organization, other organizations, to let's make that happen. We can all do it if we try. I am very optimistic that things can change when all of us get in the game. So I am going to Congress to make that happen. I will be building relationships across and within. I believe in internal and external relationships. I have enough connections to make that happen. And with all of your support, we can make a better south side of Chicago, South Suburban area, all the way down to Danville and Kankakee. And we can get this airport. And then that's going to be transformative for the next generations.
All right, without question, Donna Miller running for 2nd Congressional District. Please make sure that you support her and you vote for her. We're going to hear from you again. I want to thank you very much for stopping in to see us on this Sunday afternoon. I know you got a busy schedule. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Mark. All right, and punch 31. I didn't say that part.
Punch 31. Punch 31.
All right.
That's right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, listen. That is the important part of this. Now, we as voters, we as the constituent, we have to do our part, and we have to get involved. When we get people elected to office and who have gone on record, and they're going to be supporting these types of initiatives, healthcare, education, and of course the economic improvement. When people like this are coming forth. Once we get them there, the way that they have the power to move those initiatives forward, the initiatives that we want forward, that power becomes strengthened by our participation. So if Donna Miller becomes the representative for the 2nd Congressional District, when she goes to Congress, if we can demonstrate and show where Donna Miller has hundreds of thousands of people pushing her, demanding about these certain things, and we put pressure on our governor, we put pressure on our mayors to make sure that she has the support to get the resources to do these things. Look, that airport will be transformational to our communities. It will create thousands of jobs for the construction of the airport and thousands of careers for maintaining the airport. There are 40,000 people who have careers at O'Hara. In and around O'Hara is another 300,000 jobs, all that have been infused because of the hub of O'Hara. But O'Hara is at its capacity. And because the FAA has told Illinois and has told us that we have to get a third airport because we are going to lose industry. And we have already lost some industry because we do not have that third hub in place so that businesses can transport their goods and products in. They don't build out in the South region because it takes too long for them to get their product, and they can't get their products to a close enough airport to transport them in. Why? Because they are at capacity and they don't have the space. We have the space on the South and the South region to build those footprints up and to build those warehouses, to build the small manufacturers out there, which will create advanced manufacturing jobs that pay $89,000 a year and higher. So we're talking about transformational thousands and thousands upon jobs. Here we're getting ready to do a data center on the southeast side of Chicago where we have 600 acres of land that are shovel ready. And between the mayor and between the governor, that they are going to give this one data center $500 million in subsidies that is only going to contribute 150 jobs, much less that it is going to put another burden of energy costs because of the energy and the electricity that data centers use, and their usage is going to cause for our energy costs to rise. So it really doesn't make sense for us to be subsidizing one data center with $500 million in subsidies that are going to import 150 jobs, because those jobs are not going to be going to the people who live in the immediate area. When we can build an airport for $500 million that will create 15,000 jobs and then growing from there. That seems to be a much better return on that investment than spending $500 million on a subsidy that's only going to bring 150 jobs, and out of that 150 jobs, they're not going to be coming to the people of our community because they're going to be specialized jobs that they're not going to train our people to get. But even if those jobs did come to our communities, 150 jobs for $500 million in subsidies is something that it just goes without saying that if we're going to spend $500 million on 150 jobs when we can spend $500 million and develop and transport industries that will create thousands of jobs, that seems to be much more economically feasible and economically sound to do. But you're going to hear more from Donna Miller. You're going to hear more from other candidates. Coming up on the Monday night edition of the People Show on tomorrow night, we are going to bring all of our endorsed candidates that we have endorsed for this upcoming election for 10 by 10 to win. So I want you to make sure that you chime into it. You're going to hear from all of those candidates. If you have not voted, you're going to hear from each one of the candidates. You're going to hear from Fritz Kagi, who is the current Cook County assessor. We have endorsed Fritz Kagi for a third term. Let me make and clarify the position of the assessor. The assessor does not determine how much you pay on your taxes. There, depending upon where you live, there is between 9 and 11 different taxing bodies that determines what the tax levy is. If you look at your real estate tax bill on mine, there are 11 different agencies that all have levies that they come to for the taxing to pay for those services. On my real estate tax bill, there are 11 different governmental agencies that I contribute to for my real estate taxes. The largest, which is the Board of Education, which takes up about 55 to 57%, in some cases 60% of your tax bill. the City of Chicago, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, the Chicago Park District, the County of Cook, the Chicago Community College District 508, the City of Chicago School Building and Improvement Fund, the City of Chicago Library Fund, the County of Cook Health and Hospital Commission, the County of Cook Public Safety, the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. Those are 11 different taxing bodies that make up, and they all have a certain dollar amount that they have levied to run their particular agency, and the homeowners have to contribute their share to each one of those bodies. That's not determined by the Cook County assessor. The Cook County assessor's job is, there are 1.8 million parcels of property in the county district. And the Cook County assessor has the responsibility to assess the valuations and the value of what your property would sell for in all of Cook County. That's what the assessor has done. This assessor has worked very tirelessly over the last 2 terms to make that process a lot more fair, where the assessed valuations of commercial properties are assessed the way that they should be assessed, and the assessed valuation of residential property, which means your homes, your condos, and your apartments, are assessed equitably the way that they should be assessed. The problem that we have is that we still have a system that is plagued by corruptness, that was designed by 2 people who are now in prison and now not in our government, Michael Madigan and Ed Burke, for the last 40 years. These guys have engineered, along with people like Joe Barrios, who was one of the most corrupt Board of Review commissioners and one of the most corrupt assessors. And before that was Tom Hines. Now, Patrick Hines, the nephew of Tom Hines, who worked for Joe Barrios for more than 18 years, wants for us to go back to that old system. Now, if you want to go back to an old system of corruptness, then elect Patrick Hines. But if you want for someone to continue to work to make this system fairer for homeowners, then we need to support the reelection of Fritz Kagi. Somebody texted me earlier talking about that it was difficult for them to support Fritz Kagi, but it's only difficult for people to support Fritz Kagi because they don't really understand the totality of what the situation is. I took the time to explain to them exactly what the assessor does and who's really responsible for destabling our tax bodies. One of the other areas that we are supporting in this race is Juanita Irizarry. Juanita Irizarry is running for the Board of Review. She's running for the 1st District against George Cardenas. There are 3 seats on the commission. The 1st and the 2nd seat are both up for election this term, and we're hoping that we can get Samantha Steele reelected in her district, and we're hoping that we can flip the seat and get Juanita Irizarry elected. If we can get Juanita Irizarry elected into the Board of Review, we can completely cut out the pay-to-play politics that is going on, where tax appeal attorneys are paying into campaign funds of George Cardenas by the hundreds of thousands, into the campaign fund of Larry Rogers Jr. by as much as $1 million, so that those 2 guys, when they bring tax appeal cases before them, that they will vote to reduce their tax basis. For example, George Cardenas accepted $4,500 from Tim McNerney, Donald Trump's tax lawyer for the Trump Tower, and the tax lawyer in Chicago, and $9,000 from the lawyers at the same firm. Months after George Cardenas took this donation, the Board of Review reduced the assessed value of Trump Tower by $48 million, significantly reducing the taxes owed by Donald Trump, which were shifted onto the homeowners. I have incident after incident after incident. The University of Chicago study found that the Board of Review reduction on appeals consistently shifted property tax burdens back to homeowners from businesses, with a $5 billion reduction in commercial values in 2024. That money was put onto the backs of the homeowners. You are paying, if you're a homeowner this year on your property taxes, you're paying an additional $700 for the subsidies of the tax cuts for wealthy property owners downtown. That is what we need to cut. So Juanita Irizarry is who we are supporting and who we have endorsed for the Cook County Board of Review on the 1st District. We've also endorsed LaShawn K. Ford, who is running for the 7th Congressional District, replacing Danny Davis out on the west side of Chicago. And we're going to hear from all of these people we're going to hear from on Monday night. So we're going to hear from all of the judicial candidates that we have endorsed, and you're going to hear from all of the legislative candidates that we have endorsed for Congress, for assessor, as well as for the Board of Review. And in terms, we have not endorsed anyone for the Senate seat, that of Dick Durbin, but we have largely in our committee meetings said that we would be supporting. Many of the members of our committee said who we would be supporting, and I'll give you more information about that on tomorrow night. I am personally going to be supporting Robin Kelly in this election out of the 3 people who are running. That is, and why we're not endorsing anyone is because none of those candidates decided to accept our invitation to come before the committee for an endorsement session. So therefore, we didn't have anyone to vote on to endorse for that seat. And the 3 top contenders for that is Raja Krishnamurthy from the north side, Robin Kelly, who is currently the 2nd congressional representative of Congress, and of course you have the lieutenant governor, who is also running for Juliana Stratton, who is also running for the Senate seat to replace Dick Durbin. So I will be personally supporting Robin Kelly in this election, although 10 by 10 to Win has not endorsed anyone in that race because we did not get the opportunity to interview any of them. None of them found it necessary to respond to our multiple invitations and to come before the committee. So you'll make your choice. And that, I find it very odd for Raja Krishnamurthy to think that the Black community by and large should be supporting him, since we have never seen him in the community since only until he decided that he was going to be running for this seat. As well as the Cook County Board, we haven't endorsed anybody there, but we're certainly going to be supporting the re-election of Tony Pretwinkle, because to give that seat to a corporatist of Brendan Riley, who has voted against policies that will help to lift people in very underserved communities on the south and west sides of Chicago. He voted to increase taxes and voted to increase bag taxes from 7 cents to 15 cents that are going to hurt, that is hurting people on the south and west sides of Chicago. And then also voted to increase taxes, to add another taxing body of additional speed cameras that are generating millions and millions of dollars, which I call a tax revenue, because it's not for a safety benefit on the people on the south and west side of Chicago. So you're going to hear from all of those candidates tomorrow night. We're going to be doing what I call a lightning rod to give you a final glimpse at all of the candidates in the judicial sector, all of the candidates in the legislative section that we're going to be supporting, All of those people are going to be coming forth tomorrow night on the Monday night edition of the People Show. Make sure you tune in with me then tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you.